Hello and welcome. Hi, I'm Steve Sapato, your host for today's little webinar. And I wanted to touch base with you. I'm a professional speaker, corporate trainer by trade, been speaking for about 35, 40 years. You know, there's a big gap, 5-year difference in there, 35 or 40. Well, let's see. It's probably been longer than that. But anyway, I'm Steve Sapato. I hope you're here to have a good time and to learn some things because I've got a couple things planned for us today. It'll be a short, I don't spend an hour and 45 minutes telling you all about my history. Let's get into what we really want to talk about, okay? And in talking about these things, one of the things I want you to understand is that I like helping people. Do you like helping people? Because that's what it's all about. You know, we're going through this COVID thing, we're going through this quarantine thing, and a lot of people want to yell at each other. Hey, you're not wearing a mask. Hey, you're not wearing a mask. Hey, you're wearing a mask and you look stupid. You know what? I don't care. Let's band together and help each other. You aren't going to change anything no matter what you yell and scream and holler at somebody. We had a lady on the plane. We flew over the weekend. We've been out traveling, and that's what we do for a living when you were presenters, speakers, travelers. You know, we travel. We're not afraid of travel. And that's important that you understand that we will do things differently from a lot of people because our lifestyle differs from a lot of people. But we had a lady on the plane yesterday sitting right in front of us, and talk about a nasty person, right? Oh my gosh, she was on the phone talking, right? When we all sat down, and the language she used was foul, vulgar. You know, you're just like, oh my gosh. We had a little lady over here to the side, maybe 25, 30 years old tops, I think, but had a brand new baby, 8 months old, 9 months old type thing. And this lady didn't care. She didn't care. She just kept spewing her vehemence and her nastiness. And finally, at some point in time, we had a delay on the plane, and she started to irritate the staff. And when she irritated the staff, that's when they jumped in and said, "Hey, back that truck up. You need to watch your language. You need to watch what you're doing." And they threatened actually to take her off. They asked her if she would like to step outside, and she said no. And she didn't just say no, she said it another way, but they calmed her down. But what I want you to understand is you'll win a lot more people with what is it, with honey than you will with vinegar type thing. So just be aware that as we go through all this, our job is to help one another. I hope you're helping people in what you do. Does that mean we give away our services for free? Absolutely not. But we will do the things that we need to do to help other people. We're all going through something, you know that? Every single one of us. When I work with people who are authors and they want to be well, they need to be speakers. If you're an author, you need to be a speaker because that's how you're going to sell more books. And when they've already written their book, and their book is very self-absorbed, it's all about me, I, my, right? You'll hear me say that the I, me, my is my phrase. You got to take all the I, me, my's out of what you do. And if they've already written their book and it's all about the I, me, my, I suffered through cancer. I got in a car accident. I people tend not to want to read so much. And so when I get them into becoming that speaker, we try and remove that I, me, my, because people want to be involved in your talk. They don't want to sit and listen to your story. And that's a lot of what we talk about here in terms of helping you grow as a speaker, as a business person. And I want you to understand that that's what we do. So right now, all I want you to understand is that I'm going to be going over a few things. I promised you a few things. I promised we'd get to the 3 things that get people to listen to you. I promised that we would, what to do in order to stand in front of others with confidence. One thing that's been holding you back from becoming all that you can be. And also, I want you to understand that I got a new ball. I'm sitting on a ball now. Do you guys have a chair? I've had a chair for many years, and I go way back, and I had a ball too, and I enjoyed the ball, and I think I'm enjoying the ball again, right? Because it keeps my legs moving, and you got your balance going. Maybe it'll help my core. Has there been any studies on that? But all I want you to know is that you'll see me bouncing every once in a while. Maybe you'll even hear the squeak of the ball as I roll it around here. But that's not the important part. The important part is what we're going to share. So I hope you're here to grow, listen, become. So let's just jump right in. I've got 9:04. If anybody else was coming to tune in, they can get the replay after this. What do you think? Yeah. Again, Steve Sapato. You can reach me at steve@stevesapato.com. You can go to my website, stevesapatoseminars.com, or One of my favorite places is we're the alternative to all the TEDx's where you can actually get on the stage. So you can go to speakertalks.com. And it's 9 o'clock in the morning, so I'm having coffee. You can see my mug says New York. And some of you might misconstrue that to mean I'm a big fan of New York City. No. but I sometimes get souvenirs from where I go, and this is one of those cups. So I hope you're enjoying your morning. Hope you have the coffee you need. I'll set it back here, and we'll get on to this. The 3 things that get people to listen to you. And I don't know about you, but I always keep notes, right? So that I stay fairly on track, because otherwise, I'm a storyteller. I'll get off on stories about what you and I might have done when we were younger, what else we might do. And so I try and keep notes that keep me on track. Even when I'm on stage, I have the notes in my head. And if you want to know one secret, a lot of times, especially depending on where you're at, if you're on a smaller stage, you can put helpful notes underneath, like underneath the water that you've got sitting on stage, underneath the microphone where it sits over here, different places, so that if you start to lose your place, you can go back over. They think you're getting water, but you're actually getting, focused on your note and finding out where you are. Little tidbits that speakers will teach you along the way, or should be teaching you. If they're great speakers and they're teaching you how to be a great speaker, they better be teaching you all the little stuff that's going to really help you become a great speaker. And so here we are talking about the 3 things that get people to listen to you. Because you know what, most of us are so self-absorbed that when we get into especially office situations or larger venues or places where we need more help in being seen, being visible, I tell people I'm an expert on creating visibility for people, because you can take all kinds of things. I've been in, even now, you get into situations where people talk loudly, people talk over you, and no matter what you do, unless you do specific things, you won't be heard. Okay? So one of the things that really will make people pay attention to you is when you become a great listener. You say, Steve, that doesn't help me become. Yes, it does. You become a great listener. You become one of those people who listens to what other people say. And then after they've said it, you might interject something that you have to say. You might ask the right question. You might come up with the right solution, all because you're a great listener. In other words, you sit back now. Don't misunderstand. Just because you're listening doesn't mean you're not involved. I tell people, I teach people, especially in this day where everything is on video, everything is online, all the meetings, all the summits, all the webinars. And if I'm attending in a group and I'm just sitting back, people aren't paying any attention to me. Well, they notice that you're not paying any attention, or at least it seems to them like you're not. So always be involved, even in a group. So if you get back to your office and you want to be more visible, especially if you're online and you want to be more visible, sit up, pay attention. Don't look down here at the faces. Look up here at the dot where your camera is. That's where people will think you're listening and looking at them. They will see you looking at them. They feel important because you're looking at them. So when you're listening intently with the purpose, with the intent, right, of inviting yourself into the conversation when it's the right time. So you listen to 4 or 5 conversations and nobody has anything worth jumping in to talk about, then don't, right? Maybe they'll ask you. That's what I find a lot of times. They'll go, Steve, what do you think about that? Really? They asked me. That makes you feel even better. And it also shows that they noticed that you were not involved at that level. Now, not that you weren't involved, because I'm sitting here all the time looking at you, right? Trying to figure out what's going on with that meeting, with that workshop, with that seminar, especially online. The camera catches everything, especially in a replay where people have time to pause and look and see what you're doing. So if I'm over here fidgeting, doing something while you're talking about something important, and then I come back, oh, sorry, I wasn't listening. I was getting my cup of coffee. Oh, that's a bad thing, isn't it? Of course it is, especially if it's your boss or supervisor, even your peers. You want them to think that you're intently involved in what they have to say. And quite frankly, you should be, or you shouldn't be in the meeting. I'm almost out of coffee, so you won't have to worry about me drinking much of that anymore. But becoming that great listener is really important to your success. Listen to what's being said. Listen to how it's being said. And what you're listening for are the weaknesses in the argument, the strengths in any argument, the flaws in any argument, right? And how you might create a whole helpful situation in whatever their discussion is, right? And that's important that you start to learn that the more you listen, the more solutions you will find. And when you are such a good listener that you come up with a lot of solutions, people are really going to notice that. And it's important that you are a good listener and make sure people you convey that listening again, not like I'm still listening. Nope, nope. You convey to them that they're important, that you're listening, that what they have to say is valuable to you. Change your expression. I've been a nutball since this whole COVID thing started, right? Online. Got to be a nutball with facial expressions, especially if you're wearing a mask and they can't see the rest of your face. They don't know you're smiling. I'm really smiling. You can't tell that very much. But you got to let your eyes smile. Hey, hi, I'm smiling. That's important that you let people know what's behind the mask. Otherwise, a lot of people are like, yep, I'm sleeping. Yep, I'm not involved. Yep, I don't care. It's really valuable that you become a good listener with all of you. Vital. You want to be more noticed. You want to be special. You want to be somebody who gets the attention and the notice. Become a great listener. Notice how I narrowed my eyes when I said become a great listener. Know what your face is doing. Every moment, know what your face is doing. Is it smiling? Is it frowning? Is it curious? Is it asking? Is it doubting? Like, are you kidding? That's what you had to say? Every expression will challenge somebody on the other end. So just be aware of what it's doing. So become a great listener. That's done. So 3 things to get people to listen to you is become a great listener. Second, um, it says input only things you can know and support. Now, let's qualify and make sure you understand. It's okay to jump into most conversations, but if you sat and listened to, let's say there were 5 people in this conversation right here, and everybody was batting ideas back and forth, and this person didn't agree with that person's idea, and this person didn't like that person's idea. After you listened for 10, 15, 20 minutes, I don't know how long it takes for that to happen in corporate America anymore, you might make the suggestion of, can I interrupt? And then everybody suddenly turns and looks at you right on the screen and goes, well, yeah, because you haven't been saying anything. You've been listening the whole time. You haven't been throwing out silly ideas. You haven't been saying stupid things. You haven't been arguing with anybody and ticking anybody off. You just ask the question, can I interrupt? They go, well, yeah, Steve, good, go ahead, interrupt us. And I go, okay. And then you input what you've heard. Well, Bob said this, Betty said that, Tom said this, Karen said that. And maybe we should look at, and then you can ball it all together, or whatever your solution might be. But if you've been quiet the whole time and everybody else is just bapping each other in the head, when you enter the conversation, people will be quiet and listen because you've been a great listener. And that's important that you understand that a great listener comes into a conversation with a real advantage because everybody knows you've been listening. And you can even tell them, you know what, I've been sitting here listening to you guys argue with each other for 15 minutes. And here's what I've heard. Ta-da! And then you can put together this as well as your solution. And that's important that you can do that. So when you enter the conversation, though, be careful because the third thing on 3 things that get people to listen to you is never enter with an attitude, right? Never enter with an attitude or that know-it-all tone. Here's what I've been listening to you guys say. No, 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 right? You want to enter the conversation and you want to share with everybody, get everybody on your side so that, yeah, they might still argue with you and they still might bump heads. But then you back away and you wait for them to finish because you know what? Most people don't have a clue what they're talking about, even if they think they do. And you can find that out with several things by asking questions, really simply by asking questions. So when we talk about that, it's one of those situations where somebody says this and you heard them say that, and then somebody else says this. And you might say, you know what? I've been listening and I heard you say this and I heard you say that. Now, which of you can support those statements? Boy, is that powerful, right? So you enter the conversation with your solution only when you can support your position. And you know what? Especially with today's cell phones, oh my gosh, can you get lots of info like this? So if you're talking about something that you go, I'm not sure I understand that, or maybe that phrasing, or maybe that wording, or maybe that context, and so you look it up on your phone, you come up with 3 or 4 articles while they're arguing, and you glance over the articles and you go, oh, I think this is what they're looking for. And you say, hey, I think we should look at this. And they're like, well, where do you come up with that? And you go, well, according to this article, and according to that article, and according to this one, this is what I found. And they're like, oh, well, where'd you come up with that? Because a lot of times, especially in a work situation where you're not being noticed, everybody throws out BS. Have you noticed that? I'm really good at throwing out BS. I really, I'll enter conversations and I'll say something way over there sometimes, and people are like, really? And I, I have to look at them. I go, no, no, that's not true at all. I made that up. So understand that a lot of times people are just like me. They throw out BS, and unless they're called on it, they're going to keep moving forward. They're going to keep pushing that or their agenda because that's what they think they're supposed to do. Most of us don't understand we're supposed to collaborate. You understand collaborate? Collaboration is where you have an idea, they have an idea, I have an idea, and we all come together to put this wonderful group of ideas into one working model. That's what I teach when I go into corporations a lot of times. Hey, we call it I call it brainstorming, okay? Because in brainstorming, you're not allowed to criticize anybody else's idea, opinion, right? You're not allowed to, because that stops somebody else from entering the conversation. And maybe it's their idea that would have changed our whole company or organization. So understand that we need to start becoming much better listeners. Then you ask questions to formulate your response. Okay, so let me give you an example. Even you ever been someplace and here, let me make it simple. A lot of places, when I say you got to become a great salesperson, people go, we're not selling here. We're an office. We don't sell anything. You're selling your opinion every time. Do you know that? You're selling your opinion. You're selling a solution. You're selling what can happen here. So if you ask the right questions, because matter of fact, I just put something out on Facebook the other day to a sales organization, and I said, give me your best top 5 closing questions, right? And so many of them were, oh, you got to be kidding type phrases. Like, from what you've seen here, are you ready to buy? What would stop you from buying today? Well, first of all, if you're using buy, you're making a mistake, right? Could you see yourself, if I'm retail side, could you see yourself taking this home today? What would stop you from taking this home today, right? Somebody said, hey, what brought you in? I like that question. Hey, what brought you in today? Oh, we're just looking. You ever say that to somebody? Oh, we're just looking. Really? So nothing special? Nope, we're just looking. Great. And then you leave them alone. You come back 5 minutes later and they're pulling at something, they're looking at something, they're tipping something over, and you go, home decor today? And you're like, well, we were kind of looking. See, once you give people space and room, they might open up to you, as long as you're not trying to pressure them into buying something. My wife and I just went and bought a couple kayaks the other day, and the salesperson there was so terrible that we walked away from the store. Now I ended up calling them back and getting a deal over the telephone that I couldn't get in the store, and went back the next day and purchased them. But what I want you to understand is, most of the time in any situation, if you ask the right questions, you become the leader in that situation, because most people are just telling people. And what you want to do is ask the right questions. Does that make sense? I hope it does. And if it doesn't, please write to me, steve@stevesapato.com. You can go to stevesapatoseminars.com if you want and find me. But I want you to understand that those are what we're looking at. Well, we're 20 minutes into this, so I better move on to my next one, because I don't like taking an hour and a half to say something that should have taken 12 minutes. And I know some people really want to talk about their history and their background and how much they did this. No, let's talk about what we came here today to learn. So what to do in order to stand out in front of, to stand in front of others with confidence. Boy, there's a real tough challenge, isn't it? Especially for people who are not comfortable speaking in public. So here's what I always tell people. First of all, if you know you're going to be speaking in public, you have now, this goes against everything everybody else will tell you, but I want you to understand something. If you've got you have a favorite story you tell? You, I got about 1,000 favorite stories I tell. My wife will tell you that I tell a lot of them over and over again. But here's what's important. When you're in the middle of your favorite story and it gets interrupted, and then somebody comes back to you and says, I'm sorry, you were telling this story about, right? And you go, oh yeah, oh yeah. Do you ever go, I don't know what that story was. Nope, don't know what that story was. Of course you don't, because it's your story. So when I tell people that what gets you confidence in front of people, especially if you're going to be talking about, like they ask you to come in and talk to the PTA about bullying or whatever it might be. The office asks you to come in and talk about the expertise in your area, right? I want you to write out, and this is what I teach my people. I teach professional speaking to professional speakers so that they can get a lot better. And there's a lot involved in that. But one of the things I teach is, I call it storytizing, okay? And we'll get into that. But it's not storytelling. Storytelling is all about how do you put your children to sleep at night, right cadence, the right phraseology, the right, no, that has nothing to do with me telling you a story about what is happening in our life at that moment in time. So let me give you an example. If I say, hey, I'm going to be speaking tomorrow on seashells. Look right up here in my shell, seashells. And I go, okay, so I'm talking in front of a people who know seashells, right? Then I have to find a niche in there that I can become the expert on in certain specific seashells or a certain thing, or how to clean the seashells properly, or how to store them properly, or how to, you know what I'm saying? I have to find what I consider a valuable piece that other people would like to learn. And that's important, really important that you understand that you're not going to be the expert on whatever that topic might be. Won't be. And nobody else is either. I don't care how, you know what I'm saying? Oh, it's me. I don't care what they think of themselves. There's going to be places that you will have more knowledge than them on any specific situation. So when we're talking about you having to speak in front of a group, if it's a not impromptu, if it's a planned talk, I want you to write an outline of whatever that talk is. You're going to talk for 15 minutes. Write an outline. Then I want you to write the speech word for word. Then I want you to look at it again. I want you to reorganize it, right? I want you to rework it. I want you to have somebody else read it, not you don't present it to them. I want them to read it so that they go, I don't get this. I'm not seeing that. What did that mean? And then you fix all that stuff. Then you memorize that talk. Now listen to what I'm saying. Then you memorize that talk, okay, to the best of your ability. And then you forget about it for a day. It's gone. I know I'm supposed to give it tomorrow and I should be practicing. No, leave it alone for that one day in between. Then the day before you have to give it, right, you try and give it again. So read it again. Oh, okay, I read it again. All right, now put the piece of paper down and start talking about it. Because you see, now you wrote the outline, then you wrote the story, you memorized it, you put it away, you came back to it, you looked it over again, and now it's becoming your story. You get it? Once it becomes your story, you can't get lost. It won't get confusing. You know exactly what it's going, where you're going with each point, right? And that's important you understand. I didn't memorize it. You know what? If I make a 5-point speech and I leave one point out, who knows that I left that point out? Absolutely no one, right? It's not like singing the national anthem where you're singing the national anthem and you forget a verse. People are going to go, hey, they forgot the whole verse. I don't know if I know the national anthem well enough to even know that. But I want you to understand that when you do that, you with me? When you do that, you make that talk your talk. It's now your story that you're telling and sharing with the people out front. Should you have expertise and knowledge? Yeah, sure, certain amount. And that's step 3 is what one thing has been holding you back in your life, in your profession, and that's fear. Fear of ridicule, fear of looking stupid, fear in saying something stupid. Have you ever said something? Here, I got one for you. You ever been walking down the street and you tripped over a crack in the sidewalk? I love watching people do that. You guys, because they're always like, oh, First, they look around to see who watched them trip over their own feet. And then they look back to see if there was something on the sidewalk that tripped them. And sometimes there's nothing there and they just tripped over their own toe, right? And you've done that. I've done that. And we feel stupid when we do it. And you know what? Did you die? No, right? Did it really hurt your feelings? Well, if it did, you better start stumbling some more because we've all tripped over something that wasn't there. And so all I want you to understand is when you're walking down the street and you trip over that, you go, oh. And if somebody was looking at you, go, I tripped over something. You wouldn't make a big deal of it. You wouldn't stop and go, I think there was a stone there, but I moved out of the way and there was a crack in the sidewalk, but it raised. No, you wouldn't, right? You would go, I tripped over something. Pretty stupid, huh? And that's what you'll do when you're talking about what's been holding you back. What holds us back is fear. Fear of looking stupid, fear of sounding stupid, fear of being ridiculed, fear of being made fun of. And you know what? That's called life. And if you're going to advance yourself in your career, one thing I know you have to do is start admitting when you've made a mistake, admitting when you don't know all the answers. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what they say about the President of the United States, not just Donald Trump, any President of the United States. They're not the smartest person in the room, but they surround themselves with the smartest people in the world, right? Isn't that what it's supposed to be? You want to surround yourself with knowledgeable, good people. And where you work, I hope you're surrounding yourself with knowledgeable and good people. I don't expect any one of them to know everything about a topic. I don't expect any one of them not to make a mistake. I don't expect any one of them to look something up because you know what? There are experts all over the world. Have you noticed that? An expert in this says this, and the expert in the same thing over here says that, totally contradicting each other. That's important that you understand that an expert in this and an expert in this can still disagree. Now, there's no reason to bump heads. There's no reason to argue with each other. There's no reason to fight about it. So what I want you to understand is when it comes time to get ahead, what's been holding you back is fear. That's all. And all we got to do is learn to get over it. So practice in the mirror. Hey, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Hey, I made a mistake. I didn't know this, right? Hey, did you know this? Because I didn't know that. It's okay. When I teach, a lot of times I teach stuff, and especially when I'm teaching with someone else, I will play the devil's advocate. So they might say, well, what color is the wall behind you, Steve? And I'll go, I'm not really sure. Does anybody in here know what color that wall is? And somebody, especially if they are a teacher like me and they're sitting there, they'll go, oh, Steve, you don't know that that's a red wall? Of course, I know it's a red wall. I was hoping one of my students would be able to find the answer. You follow me? There's lots of times when looking stupid helps somebody else feel good about themselves. That's important that you learn how to use that. Hey, I know the answer to this, but I'm not going to give you the answer. How about if you find the answer? And when you find the answer, then we both pretend that was brand new information and we feel good about it. Oh, yeah, that's right. I should have known that. Wonder why I didn't, right? Doesn't matter. If you think I'm stupid, work with me for a while and you'll end up finding I'm a pretty smart guy. Same with you. Do I think you're stupid? Probably not. There might be times. But you know what? That's when we laugh with each other. We have fun with each other. We joke with each other. My wife, one of the smartest ladies I know, moving up in her organization, right? And we argue with each other all the time. And you know what we end up saying to each other? Well, you're right again. My wife always goes, well, this is the second time you're right today. And you know what? We have fun with that. I want you to have fun with your life. So the three things that get people to listen to you, let's go down again. Be a great listener who can put other people together. Input only things you know and can support. Don't make up any BS. Don't pull stuff out of the air because you thought it was it. When you've been a good listener, especially to a large group, your office, whatever it might be, you've listened intently, then they'll start learning that you have wisdom and they'll say, you know what, we haven't heard from you yet. What do you have to say on this topic? And then you can jump in with your information, but only if you've built that relationship, only if you built that reputation. You know what? I've been talking about brand lately on a lot of the stuff I do. Branding to me is reputation. right? If you've branded yourself correctly, right, people will know, like, and trust you, and that's your reputation also. So be a great listener with great ideas, right? Input things you know and can support, prove. Never come in with an attitude or a know-it-all opinion. Always come in with, you might have the solution dead on. You might be the smartest person in the room, and you know that, man, I've been listening to you guys BS your way for about 10 minutes. I'm going to step in here and fix all this. You might just interrupt them and say, hey, can I ask everybody a question? And they're like, yeah. What if we did this? And people are like, oh, that's a great idea. And you want to go, duh. But instead you go, thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, well, I hope it works for us. Now, you know it's going to work. You absolutely know 100% it's going to work. That doesn't mean you have to tell them, well, I know it was my idea. That was my idea. I took that idea. Somebody stole that idea from, who cares whose idea it is? Now, you'll say, well, my boss, but your boss will know. Now, if your boss ends up not knowing after a while, you probably need a new boss. Maybe you need a new job, but that's up to you. A whole nother story. We won't go there. Right? So get your info out by asking questions. If you ask them, hey, they say, well, this is absolutely true. You go, can I ask you a question about that? They go, yeah. I go, where did you get that information? Can I ask that? Because I'd like to look it up, right? We got our cell phones. I'd like to look that up and find out for sure. And they're like, well, it's somewhere out on the internet. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay. So we just proved that they don't really know what they're talking about. Now I don't have to say, oh, so you don't know what you're talking about. No, you just say, oh, okay, well, I'll try and find it someplace else. And then you look, find the correct answer, and share it with the group. You say, I know Bob said this, right? Or I know Karen said that, but here's what I just found looking it up. Now, you didn't say, you're a liar, or you're an idiot, or you're a dummy, or you don't know what you're talking about. Instead, I said, hey, I'd like to find out and verify. Can you share with me where you got that? And when they couldn't, then you find your information and you share it with the group who looks like they're smarter already. So get your info out by asking questions, and always be a great salesperson in every situation by asking the questions that will sell your idea, sell your opinion, right? You've got 5 closing questions that you should be using on almost every situation. If you need those, write to me at steve@stevesapato.com, and I'll send you 5 questions that I think will help you get to a place of power for yourself. What to do in order to stand in front of a group and others with confidence? First of all, is know your topic. Knowing your topic and knowing that you have the expertise there is what really does help you get better in front of a group. Now, do you have to be the know-it-all? Absolutely not. Don't say things that says this is the only way, because somebody will jump up and try and prove you wrong. Because there's all kinds of jerks in the world. Have you noticed that? And they'll jump up and say, no, it's this. Steve, you said this. You said that. Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't have said it that way. What I should have said is this. You're right. You're right. I said that wrong. It's not that my information was wrong. I said it wrong. And you're right, Bob. You're right. I said it wrong. So let me back up and fix that right now. Will you allow me to fix my? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Right. And then Bob could be a jerk and really try and prove me wrong all the time. That's up to Bob. And then all you have to do is know what you're talking about and ask Bob if it's okay. Hey, Bob, is it okay if I fix this? Bob, is it okay if you look stupid this time? Oh, no, don't do that. All right. And the one thing that's been holding you back is fear. Fear, right? Being afraid to look stupid, being afraid to feel stupid, being afraid to sound stupid, being afraid of saying something stupid, being afraid of ridicule from other people. Goes back to the tripping on the sidewalk. We don't die because we trip over the sidewalk and feel stupid for that next 15 seconds while we look around and see why we trip. We don't feel it doesn't ruin our lives when somebody looks at us that we tripped over something that wasn't there. Understand that when you get past the fear of that momentary feeling of stupidity that we all get when we make a mistake, and you will make mistakes, that it's okay to move on. All right. We're at 35 minutes into this little podcast, little webinar, and I hope that as a public speaker, you've learned some things, but I hope just as an individual looking to move forward in your company organization, that this has helped you. I'm Steve at stevesapato.com. You can go to Steve Sapato Seminars, or you can go, if you want to get on stage or learn more about being a public speaker, an author who can sell a lot more books, or a great entrepreneur, come to our event. We're going to be out in Tampa. Live in-person event. You can buy the replay online, of course, but live in-person event, June 12th and 13th. You should come. It's going to be great to be out and about. And yes, we will have social distancing in place, so you don't have to sit next to somebody if you don't wanna. I'm Steve Sapato. I hope you're having a blessed day, and I look forward to spending more fun moments with you, either you sharing your videos with me or me sharing more with you. God bless. Appreciate it. Let's see now. Do I know how to end a meeting? Right there. Bye.